only got this award out of pity, not because you deserve it. There comes a defining moment in every person's life, which sort of clears a path for them towards a purpose that they've discovered for themselves. For me, this defining moment, it came with this passionate 12-year-old girl who was just crazy about football, begging her school's coach to be put on the boys' football team for an upcoming inter-school tournament because a team for girls didn't actually exist. Now, I don't particularly remember how I performed in that tournament, but what I do remember is that at the end of it, out of all the boys there, I was handed the trophy for the best team player. And you wouldn't believe the look on every single boy's face in that field. Like, वो सारे एकदम से इतना परेशान हो गए थे कि ये हो क्या गया है? And then I heard these words going around. You only got this award out of pity, not because you deserve it. तुम्हें ये award सिर्फ अकेली लड़की होने की वजह से मिला है. And with these words just echoing in the back of my mind, at that very moment, मैंने सोचा कि भाई अब तो मैं फुटबॉल ही खेल के रहूंगी. And I would be so good at it, I would play so well, that I would prove not only to those boys, but also to myself, that I deserve to win, not because I was just a girl, but because I was a girl who was good at what she did. Simple as that. Now, as a boy, if you're looking to, pursue sports professionally or just for fun, it's easy to start off because, you can call up a bunch of friends, gather a bunch of kids, go and start playing in the nearest ground that's available. I'm sure आप सबने देखा ही होगा लड़कों को बाहर इकट्ठे खेलते हुए, enjoy करते हुए, because they don't have strange men ogling at them or, even the neighborhood auntie glaring at them as if they're going to be the sole harbinger of doomsday. Apologies to all the aunties sitting here, by the way, nothing personal. But me being me, despite having this societal gaze on me, I still tried to fit myself into these groups of boys that played outside every day, just so I could, somehow feel connected to the sport. But I realized that I wasn't very welcome because A, I was not as good as them, and B, obviously, I was a girl. And when you put the two together, the thought that sort of automatically pops up into people's head is that she's not good enough because she's a girl. And hearing this constantly, having these words addressed towards me all the time, I started to feel as if I was not good enough, even though that wasn't possible for a 13-year-old girl to be, as good as a 13-year-old boy because of this massive disparity in the opportunities or the resources that are available to them. Anyway, a while after I, tried to fit in and failed miserably, I got to know that a coach from my school had actually started his own training academy for young kids in a ground near my house. But I also got to know that the kids that he trained there were much younger than me, but I somehow still wanted to be involved with that club. So he decided to take me on as an assistant coach. So very ironically, my journey with football, it actually started with me coaching children about football while I was a child myself, while I still didn't know how well to play. But parallel to that, coaching this club, since it was my only opportunity to be connected to this sport, I had also formed sort of a loosely put together girls football team at school. And हम बस जिस competition में जाते थे, हम बस हार के ही वापस आ जाते थे. And it wasn't even like कोई बहुत tough competition था because सारी लड़कियों की teams equally terrible or equally unskilled थी. But as luck would have it, at one such inter-school competition, I was approached by a scout and a coach of the Model Town Football Academy who had observed my game and I guess he liked what he saw and he wanted me to join his training camp for an upcoming national level tournament. Now, as exciting as this, first ever opportunity for me was, I realized that I actually had no commute available to get me to that academy, which was 40 minutes away from my house and back every single day. But मैंने ये तो decide कर लिया था कि मैंने खेलना ही खेलना है. तो then I thought कि यार अगर गाड़ी नहीं है तो मैं क्यों ना रिक्शे पे चली जाऊं. And I guess वो कोई कबूलियत का मौका था because somehow that wish of mine, it came true. And that is exactly what happened. And that whole experience, रोज 40 मिनट दूर रिक्शे पे ट्रेनिंग करने जाना, वहाँ घंटा ट्रेन करना, वापसी पे वो ठंडी ताज़ी हवा का मज़ा लेना, it was a very, very liberating experience. And it was a new kind of experience for me. It was a new kind of freedom. And it was exactly that freedom which sort of motivated me to give my best in training, eventually to me getting selected to be a part of that team, and then to my team winning the Shalaila Baloch Under 16 National Women's Tournament. Now, I would say that reaching this point, having this title of a national champion attached to my name, I would say it was all due to the support of my parents, my family, and of course, my mentor and my coach, Sir Mudassir, all of whom are here, by the way. Hello. But the kind of support that they gave me, it made me realize that it's not just important for parents or mentors to be aware or supportive of their kids' passion. What is more important, and specifically when it comes to girls, is that these mentors, these parents, they give their children a certain level of freedom. And with that freedom, the trust that actually comes with that freedom, so that the kids actually feel empowered enough to follow their dreams, no matter how unorthodox those dreams are. Anyway, so winning this national tournament, after winning this national tournament, I was shortlisted to be a member of the Pakistan national under 16 women's team. And this was like a once in a lifetime opportunity. Aisa mauka baar baar nahi milta. And this may sound a little silly, but apart from, the fact that I would get to play at such a high level of football, the highest that you could in a country, what I was more excited about was the fact that मैं अपनी टीम के साथ पाकिस्तान फुटबॉल फेडरेशन के हॉस्टल में रहूंगी 1 महीने के लिए, घर से दूर, बस फुटबॉल ही फुटबॉल. एंड आई हैड रियली हाई होप्स बिकॉज मैंने सोचा कि अब मैं प्रोफेशनल फुटबॉल प्लेयर बन गई हूँ, कंट्री को रिप्रेजेंट करूँ, जैसे हम कहते हैं ना कि रंग लग गया है. एंड आई वॉज रियली एक्साइटेड बिकॉज आई थॉट कि हॉस्टल बहुत फैंसी होगा, हमारे पास सारी टॉप नॉच स्टेट ऑफ द आर्ट फैसिलिटीज होंगी. बट द प्लेस दैट आई वॉकड इनटू, the Pakistan Football Federation house, it was nothing like what I had imagined. In fact, I would go as far as calling it a literal hellhole. So this place was a building that had been abandoned for the last 3 years, like completely shut down. It was just one floor of rooms that were stuffed with these squeaky old bunk beds that felt like they would topple any minute. There were 12 girls stuffed into a single room. And the worst thing of all, there was just one washroom facility for 40 girls to share. And that too, pretty much dysfunctional. So all in all, it was a really shitty situation. Pun intended, by the way. Pun completely intended there. But, jokes apart, the lack of, say, washing machines for us players to wash our kits every day, since we, had 6 hours of training a day, to the lack of proper basic medical facilities. The apathy of the government towards women's sports, of the government and the federation, it was sadly evident, and it led to so many of the girls actually leaving the camp and going back home. Pure Pakistan se ladkiyan aayi huई थी. And they went back home because they didn't have the proper facilities on board. And it led to them just giving up on their dream. Anyhow, somehow I persisted through that whole mess, and in the August of 2018, I reached Bhutan for the FIFA South Asian Women's Football Tournament. And might I say, we put on quite a show up there. With scorelines of 14-0, 12-0, 8-0. We lost very miserably. Yeah. Didn't see that coming, did you? But, the teams that we competed against, Nepal, Bangladesh, India, they had invested so much more time and so much more money into women's sports compared to us. And that was evident by their performance on the field compared to ours. But what that really highlighted was the fact that girls like us who overcame the obstacles of societal, mental, and physical pressure were bound to face disappointment at the biggest stage they could. All due to the neglect of those who were in positions of authority, the institutions who ran the football system. So anyhow, after losing this tournament at Bhutan, I mean, it was sad, but it was also a motivating point for me because I felt like, ab main finally ready hu. I have a certain level of experience, exposure. I can do better in the next tournament, which was in Mongolia. And it was a bigger tournament, like pure Asia ka tournament tha. And the team in general felt ready as well. We were more motivated. We were more ready. But then, A week before this tournament in Mongolia, when we were back at training camp in Pakistan, I got a call from the team's technical staff informing me that I could not accompany my team to Mongolia because my passport had been rejected since I was a US citizen. So contrary to, most cases, I was actually at a disadvantage because I owned a silly little blue passport, which is something us Pakistanis, we drool over, jisko hum bada hi rashk se dekhte hain. And it was particularly sad for me because it was a moment when I felt ready to do what I had always wanted to do. And I felt as if the rug had just been pulled from under me. I couldn't accompany my team. And it just devastated me to another level because what I knew deep down was कि मुझे आइंदा ये level of football कभी भी खेलने को नहीं मिलेगा. And this was true, by the way, because the Football Federation actually just shut down a few months after that tournament. But when I went back home after that tournament, I had constructed this perfect facade that I was happy to be back home with friends, finally back to school. But I knew deep down this was not it because I couldn't even convince myself of this act that I had put up. And at this point, I was struggling to motivate myself to even train at the club that I was part of back home or even coach there. Mentally, I was just at an all-time low, which then started to manifest into a physical struggle. And when COVID hit, that was when I completely lost it. My football club shut down, so I had no physical activity. And just being so disturbed mentally, I started to gain a lot of weight. And ultimately, I just remember having this intense breakdown in my room where I was just crying for 15 minutes straight. Because for the last 2 years, I had been so closely associated to this sport that suddenly I felt a loss of, a sense of a loss of my own identity. And it was at this moment that I was this close to actually giving up on football. But at this moment of dilemma, the one thing, ironically, or maybe not so ironically, the one thing that pulled me out of this abyss was football itself. I decided that I should at least, start trying to play again once, lockdown lifted. But I wanted a different challenge in my life. I wanted a change in my environment. And I decided कि मैंने अपने पुराने club नहीं जाना. I want to join a new academy. And that's exactly what I did. I joined a different academy. But yet again, another academy where I had to train with boys who were younger than me. And after a while, I realized that I wasn't really satisfied there. So when my coach called me up, I decided to go back to my old academy, where I then had to play in in a group of boys who were either younger than me or older than me. And by this point, I had realized, as most of you must have realized by now, that this was just a vicious cycle. No matter which club I joined, I would keep having to play with boys who were younger than me or boys who were older than me. And I would keep feeling as if either I'm not good enough or as if I don't fit in. And I couldn't really blame my coach for not fitting in because, let's be honest, it's not the easiest managing a team with 40 boys and just one girl, although he did try his best. But since I chose to commit to this sport, I chose to play it, I had to stop looking for alternatives because alternatives are not solutions. I had to start making do with what I have. I had to stop constantly competing against boys. Unki skill mere se zyada hai, unki strength mere se zyada hai. But I had to start competing against my own self, being better than my previous version until I got to present myself on the bigger stage again. But you see, this attitude of self-development, it's important for everybody to adapt it. हर कोई चाहता है हम अपने आप से ही बेहतर हों. But specifically for women, adopting this attitude of self-development is something that we have to do every hour of every day, knowing that there is no institution, no system that is going to assist us with it. So while we are suffocated by stereotypes and societal pressure, we also have to make do with the limited resources that we have. We have to try and do what we're so passionate about with the limited resources that we have. That's exactly what I started to do. But at this point, I had also understood that it's important that while we are making do with what we have, we also have to continue to fight for what we deserve. We can't just stop at, adapting to the situation. We have to change the situation. And everybody has a part to play in that. Right now, I'm trying to play my part by having started my own women's football academy recently because I want other women to have the same chances as me. But I don't want them to go through the I would call them the unnecessary struggles that I had to go through. And this is exactly why I'm giving a talk here today. To point out that my story is just one minute example of the countless struggles that women who choose to come into professional fields or fields that are, contrary to the norms, they face. And through this platform, I am trying to give out a message to parents, to coaches, to boys, just to society as a whole, to be more accepting and most importantly, be more respectful for women who choose paths that are unorthodox, that are different from what society expects them to do. I address the institutions who are in authority to start investing in creating opportunities in women's sports, not just at a state or a national level, but more importantly at a grassroots level, जब skill और passion जिस stage पे develop हो रहा होता है, because that is the most crucial stage. But apart from all of that, what I really, really hope that giving this speech here today achieves is that at least some girl, actually just some kid, is inspired and empowered to follow their passion without any fear and then pave the way for those who are coming after them. So you should take that road less traveled and you should take pride in your choice. Thank you.